Hi, love you. All right, now we're on air, finally. And I don't know why you're doing that.
It's kind of some irony in you having broadcast problems today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it must be 7 o'clock on the Google clock, and I opened the thing. All right. Whatever, so we're broadcasting. All right. Oh, so everyone just saw that. He's going to watch this later. Oh, well. Hello, I'm John Templeton of Dark Cloud Blogs, doing another interview of 2 so far. The first one was with my friend Kathy, who wrote a book, Felix the Comet. I recommend you reading it, checking it out. I need to slow down. And today I'll be using male pronouns, male name John, and I'm being joined by my friend Michael, and we're here to talk about Managlitch Underground on his podcast, which I highly recommend. And I recommend it not because I'm his friend, but because I like it and enjoy it.
Awesome.
Sure. So if so, this might get spoilery. I'm going to put that out there now as we're talking. So you should probably go check out his podcast first, then come watch this when we're done, or you're done. And of course, Michael reserves the right to say, not telling us anything for the purpose of story later. I'm sure I'll be asking about some of that kind of stuff.
And the great thing about my universe is I can change any of it at whim anyway.
Yes, with the whole glitch. So before we get too much, how do you go ahead and introduce anyone who may not be coming suddenly onto this video? What is Managlitch?
Is Managlitch? Okay. The podcast or the setting?
Podcast, and then a little bit of the setting, and then we'll talk more about both.
Okay. So the podcast is it runs right now about every month. It's serial audio fiction. Usually one person, but I occasionally have guest voices in. It's a pirate radio station run for the benefit of magically changed people in a city of a time and place that is not ours. It's a city where reality breaks on a regular basis, and it's just gotten to the point where people got used to it, because people do that. No matter what crazy situation in real life you put people in, they tend to kind of get used to it, and they find ways to live their lives. And this is one of the city as a whole. This is one of their ways of coping. I was inspired by a lot of sources. I have good friends who do audio podcasts, and I've always thought I would have a lot of fun doing a podcast, but I didn't know what I wanted to be or where I was going to go with it. And then about a year and a half ago, inspiration struck. And I suddenly knew not only what the content was going to be, but what it was actually about, which it's already been developed a little bit in the episodes we've done so far. It's going to be developed further when we start the second season. But because for me, I never really wanted to write a story unless I had something to say, not just recount an adventure.
Very cool. So right now we're still in season 1, is what it sounds like you're saying.
Yes, the finale will be episode 20 for the season, which I hoped to have in February, back when I was still doing 2 episodes a month, and then I hope to have it in March, and now I hope to have it in April, because life,
Yes,
the
absolutely.
actual responsibilities of life come before recording a free podcast. But I haven't missed a month yet, and I'm very proud of that. That's an important goal of mine.
All right, let's see here. Well, because we are talking about it, I'm posting a link to the website, managlitch.com, where people can list your podcasts in the showcase, the hangout. But besides managlitch.com, where else could people go to listen to Managlitch?
So you can play it directly off the website. The primary source where I get most of my hits, you can find it on iTunes. Searching Managlitch City, it'll be the first thing that comes up. You can search it on Google, though you get a lot of responses for people trying to get extra magic points in video games.
Yes, I noticed that. I actually Googled that before we started. But you also, besides that, you do show up on 3 or 4 different hits. Stitcher.com podcast, your actual website, iTunes, and the Facebook all show up in the first page of search.
Yep, and I will be on Google Play Podcasts when they finish rolling that out. I've been pre-approved.
Awesome. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, it is not hard to find and get your free listen.
Absolutely. And then I guess I'll also post my blog into the showcase for anyone of your audience who happens to stumble upon our video. Searching for my own blog. Which thankfully actually shows up as the #1 hit.
Right. Because gaming with using Lego as mech miniatures is awesome.
Yes. For everyone who doesn't know, my primary blogging and stuff is about Mobile Frame Zero, a game by Joshua Newman. He was an excellent game developer. And I looked at some of his other projects, and I plan to review them, and they all look pretty good. And on that note, I don't know if you've been keeping track of what I've been posting, but Vincent Baker of Apocalypse World, creator of Apocalypse World, acclaimed role-playing system, and almost reinventing the role-playing genre, is making the Mobile Frame Zero, or a Mobile Frame Zero role-playing game.
Very nice.
Though they do say the average role player will probably not recognize it as a role-playing game, which actually sounds kind of exciting. But I'm not really surprised from Vincent to be saying that.
So Managlitch doesn't have a role-playing game yet, but I imagine you could do quite well with most urban fantasy roles.
Yeah, I think
not that I lean towards Shadowrun or anything.
Yeah, I was going to ask that later. Has your time as being a role player, especially a game master, been useful in writing a serial? Because I know you've done other media, but I think this is kind of different than what you've usually done.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, it's been really useful. I won't fib. I am in large parts making this story up as I go. I have some specific plot points that I already know, and some specific things I want to talk about through the characters and the plot. But the details of every episode, I've got a sketchy outline, but that's just generally something I use to work from. And as a game master, that's a very important skill, because if you have what amounts to a script, your players will break it on the first line. And there's two ways of game mastering, and I know which I prefer. You railroad them, you drag them back into your script, doing the story that you were planning to tell and nothing else, or you adapt and you flow and you encourage them and you toss elements of what you had planned to do in there anyway. But your players will enjoy that more. As a game master, I enjoy that more, and you'll go to some amazing places. And so, I've had episodes which turned on a dime when somebody that I'd been talking to said, "Yeah, I'm available to do a voice for this one if you want." And suddenly, boom! Okay, writing the character in, plot's going to change a little bit, and it's great being able to have that flexibility, because I've gotten to work with some amazing voice talent that way.
Yeah. I've sort of liked all the characters, even though we haven't gotten a voice for some of them yet in the background, though. One background character finally did get a voice, if I remember right. Recently. I think it's the one with the Aura Vision.
Hinson, the Aura Forecaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. He stayed in the background. He's important off stage. He hasn't yet come to a point in the story where he would be a major character or a voiced character. It could happen. There's a couple things about voiced characters. Is first of all, I'm trying to resist so far for this to slide into audio drama, because part of me would love to have that happen. But the problem with voiced characters is basically that means I have to ask somebody to do the voice.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't have friends who are very willing and very eager and very talented, but it means I have to work enough time in to make sure that they can, make their time, because unfortunately, since they're talented, most of them are really busy. That's one of the reasons why why episode 20 did not get done in March, is one of the important voices was busting their butts running a major fan convention, and just did not have time to work with me. And the fact that I was also doing that wasn't helping.
Was this Intervention or was it the Doctor Who one?
The Doctor Who convention. It's the same staff.
Oh, okay.
But yes,
Yeah, I remember that now.
we did Regeneration Who #2 this year, and it went great. And we all had a lot of fun, and we all worked ourselves practically to death. So there was not a lot of time for, hey, can you lay down 20 minutes worth of voice for me for our slam bang finale? And the actor in question is very interested in doing it. This has been confirmed. Just you got to plan for these things, especially when you're not compensating folks with anything but warm fuzzies and promoting their other work.
Yeah,
it's a favor, so I have to work with them.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think a lot of people does too. And speaking of promoting that, and you mentioned like other serial story podcasts, you I believe you had a crossover with another podcast within yours in one of your episodes. The Chinese restaurant, wasn't that from someone else's?
Right. I mentioned the from the Burnham Society podcast. Yes, Rowan and I have known each other for a long time, and I'm a big fan of their work. And I wrote and said, hey, is it okay if I mentioned the Nine Demons suit franchise, because it would fall into Managlitch really well? And they were thrilled. And they said absolutely. And then they actually heard it and they were over the moon. And I just think it's fun to do stuff like that, and especially in people who have influenced me somewhat. And their podcast is about the supernatural side of modern day Chicago. And so, of course, there was, it was a nice fit. I've got a couple other people that have expressed at least polite interest in working with me on future podcasts, who also what they're doing is themed in nicely with mine, and I hope to repeat the process.
Yeah. Well, I think Managlitch has a big potential to cross over stuff because of the very nature of your world and the glitching.
Yes, exactly. I have a built-in excuse to bring characters into my world, or to bring my characters into theirs.
Yeah. And you have a larger university site. And the main podcast is in Managlitch City, but you've established other worlds, and you've even visited one of them.
Yes, it's part of a political group called the 41 Worlds. There are almost certainly others which are not part of the 41. We visited one for our episode called Intervention. My character went to a convention on planet Terra Epsilon, which was very convenient since I was going to a convention that weekend. And we recorded the podcast live for a panel on podcasting, recruited actors from the audience, and got the chance to work with the 40-year veteran of British radio, Terry Malloy.
Wow.
Who also performed Davros on several classic Doctor Who episodes. So, which was absolutely amazing, because he glanced over the script, had the character perfect, and delivered every line. I mean, it was just I was privileged to be part of that.
Yeah, reminds me of a moment when Joshua was doing his second Kickstarter for Mobile Frame Zero. I did on the last day. I did another hangout for the fans to just talk about the game and stuff. And Joshua joined us, and we had a very interesting conversation about the game and development and stuff. And I think what's really cool about people like Joshua and yourself in these indie, whatever, be it podcasts, video games, tabletop role-playing games, or whatever, all of us tend to be active on social media and interact with the fans, I guess, if we do get any or whatever. I mean, Joshua and stuff are bigger than us, but they're still indie. But like you and I have played around with Managlitch on Twitter before, and I've talked to Joshua on Twitter all the time when something just randomly pops in my head. And I think it's a different and more interesting experience than when trying to deal with other larger type stuff.
Well, it actually does scale, because there's some very large projects that do that. But I think for an indie project, especially, you're doing what they call that long tail. Is you're hoping to get a piece. You're hoping to get a niche audience. I mean, certainly, if I eventually one day, was mainstream, and Hollywood wanted to give me $20 million to make a movie or something, we would talk. But one of the ways you get that niche audience is to be responsive to the people who are interested in you, and make them feel like they're part of your world. You know, like they have a little tiny part of it. Of course, you know, I've had a few of folks who've done that even show up as you know, 1 or 2 line voices on the show when I needed somebody, because why not? You know, it's I know I've been a fan of stuff for decades, and I know what it feels like to feel like that Senpai noticed me. You know.
Yes. So I mean, a lot of the questions I was planning to ask are just being answered as we talk because you mentioned some of the stuff you're just having to keep track in your head. AKA, I was going to ask, like, do you have a Bible? Or are you kind of just writing from the hip? Or are you trying to write the Bible as you go along?
So I do have something of a Bible. It's a little thin, focusing mostly. Managlitch is really big. It's bigger than New York, the metropolitan New York. So it's a big enough city that just in that city, there's so many stories you could tell. Not just the story that Glenn 755, the host of the Underground, is telling. But it has gotten complicated enough that I've actually started a wiki for my own benefit, which is it's also very thin right now because that's another time sink. And if I have a choice between working on a new script or working on the wiki, I'm going to be working on the script.
Yeah.
But there's another story which is actually in the works right now, which is it's actually a novel. And it deals with the experiences of a Ministry of Order officer.
Oh, interesting.
In Managlitch City, yes.
Other side of the coin.
Right. It's needless to say, glitching is going to be involved because that's what the city is about. The city.
You go to eat Cheerios, and next thing you know, you're eating, you know, Rice Krispies.
Well, exactly, and like I said, which most people just they look at their cereal and they go, "All right, well, crap." There's my life. And then some people, of course, you know, when a glitch happens to them, it's far more disruptive, it's far more unpleasant, sometimes lengthy. So, and yeah, his story is going to be pretty interesting. It's set before the events of Managlitch City Underground. It will probably not involve the radio station in any manner, except maybe in passing, because you know that's not the story I'm telling.
Right.
But,
so it's happening pre-Scar.
Not before the Scar, not even before the not before the portal blast. No, but
so it's gonna be
it's gonna be like only a few years. So, for example, this guy is going to be familiar with the underground. He will know of it, and maybe even have heard some of it. But like, you're not going to see characters from that. Most of the characters of that playing a major role. Now, you might see certain characters such as Cybercaster McAllen or Princess Swiftstorm play a major role because they're just so important in the city.
Right, and they're also a little bit more of his circle anyways.
Yes, exactly. I will go ahead and spoil. Mistress Messier will be involved because Mistress Messier is involved in everything. You can't keep her out of it.
Oh, I figured that.
And she's also kind of a running gag. She dates back to pre-Managlitch work I've done in other areas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah. She's I'm certain she's going to turn up. At least I think so. I reserve the right to change my mind.
And so does the city.
And so does the city. I've actually made one fairly important, well, not important, but fairly clear continuity error over the course of the show. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if anybody ever does catch me out on it, I'm definitely going to blame it on a glitch.
Oh, you're now you're pretty good challenge for me.
It's tough because, like I said, it's never a major plot point. But I did it, and I did the recording, and I was going back through old scripts to look at something else, and I said, "Oh, wait a minute! I said that's not what I said before." Oh well, you know, and that's one.
Is it Glenn's last name?
No.
Okay. Because something for some reason it pops in my head that it's 757, not 755, which brings up something I wanted to ask. Because I noticed there was another character who had numbers for last names. Is there a reason why it's a common thing? Semi?
So, okay, when Glenn glitched, his family rejected him.
I got that impression.
Yeah.
The episode I just listened to.
his life came crashing down around him a little bit. And one thing that's common in Managlitch is for glitchers who that happens to, they give up their last names and they take numbers.
Oh, okay.
It's a way of expressing their alienation. Because that is a major theme of Managlitch, is how the change in our lives can alienate us from basically the worlds we were comfortable with, what we're used to,
Right.
and how people deal with that. Definitely some of the characters in Managlitch have dealt with it better than others. Glenn is basically recovering. He's still got some things that he hasn't handled.
I say, because I think it was 8 or 9. You first kind of really hinted at his issues with his past.
Yeah,
as an issue.
and honestly, 755 is a Unix joke.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was interesting you did that, and then I noticed that there was another character who had numbers for last name. So I'm like, is there a reason for this?
Yeah, no, the reason is definitely because it's his way of expressing his anger at rejection.
Yeah,
and it's
Unix joke.
When he looked up with the glitcher community, so to speak, he discovered that that's what a lot of people did, and he went with it.
Right, but there's some glitchers, I'm presuming, still have the last name.
Yeah,
for one reason or another.
Yeah, either because
they pass better,
they pass better, or their glitch was such that everybody who has a known glitch kind of is a bit of a second-class citizen. I mean, it's not obvious, and it's certainly not legal, but they still have to deal with that. There's a small prejudice, and it's fear-driven, like most prejudices are.
Yeah.
But like anybody who's a member of a prejudiced group, some of them just are luckier than others in their surroundings, and they're more accepted, and they're able to handle it better. And like you said, some people their glitch is, they have molten lava for eyes and fangs and whatever, and some people, they just, suddenly they can see 100 miles, and those people get off a lot easier.
Yeah.
Those people end up with really good specialized jobs. So it all depends. Frederick Therms, for example, is a glitcher. Frederick, he is the owner of a business which tries to prevent glitches by cleaning up etheric pollution residue.
Right, he's the one that moved the pyramid in because it seems to be doing that.
Right. And one thing that has not appeared, I'll spoil this for people who are living, it's not been made clear yet, because the couple of times I had arranged a voice to do the character, it fell through, and I had to write them out of a voice part, is Frederick Therms has a fully female body.
Oh.
When he glitched, he changed physical genders. But he still considers himself male. He refers to himself with male pronouns. And because his female body is absolutely ordinary in every other way, it didn't affect his standing very much. It didn't affect the day-to-day operation of his life much once everybody kind of got used to it.
And that brings me point to another thing I like about your world you're saying, and also it's a reflection of who you are, or and you're coming out in your thing is, and it's a subtle thing, and I'm not surprised, but it helps makes the thing more endearing to me. Is you mentioned men and women's skirts.
Oh yes,
the weather.
That was completely intentional.
Oh, I have no doubt, given who you are, Michael, but also who I am. I think it's very, very cool. I know, probably, despite the fact that yes, there is some kind of discrimination in your world. I'm presuming there's some things that probably aren't, because those are things we would like to see be discrimination in our own worlds.
If it weren't for the power games and the glitcher prejudice, Managlitch would be a utopia. It's actually a very stable society. There's very little problem with people having enough to eat, with people having gainful employment, with people having a roof over their heads. The people, they have a voice in how they're governed. I touch on that a little bit in one episode. Not going to get into a lot of detail because it's not important.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really good place to live. And I did that on purpose because I wanted to make the stakes higher.
Right.
Because there's some big threats coming up. And it's one thing to set fire to you know uh, say something in the Hunger Games,
Yeah.
already collapsing and coming apart. But it's another. There's more at stake when you've actually got a pretty nice deal. I mean, for all that's not perfect in Glenn's life, and there's a lot of it. He's actually he knows where his next meal is coming from. He's got a lot of friends. He's looked up to by a lot of people. His life actually does not suck yet.
And then story happens.
The story happens.
Yeah, well, I like Glenn. I think you do a great job portraying the character. And the other things I like and I find endearing to the podcast is one you drop in. It's like I guess pop culture references, but definitely a more nerdy variety. Like the Gazebo. You can't tell me that's based on the classic role playing story that we've all heard about the dreaded Gazebo.
Well, indirectly, I'll tell you the story about that.
You have your own dreaded Gazebo story because that's awesome.
That? Well, okay, no. So, at the Gaylord Hotel in Washington D.C., where the huge anime convention Katsucon is held, the hotel is so huge that it has a courtyard in the middle of it with separate buildings with restaurants and stuff. And there's a very pretty gazebo in there that cosplayers literally have been known to fight each other to get pictures posing it.
Oh wow! Okay.
And some smart person a couple years ago opened up a Twitter account as the Katsucon Gazebo.
Oh wow, that is like an extra layer of meta.
And he had the traits of the one in the old D&D story. He was evil. He ate souls. He demanded sacrifices for cosplay fame. It's pretty funny Twitter account. And just because, like you said, I love to make references and throw in whatever appeals to me at the moment, I decided that the Katsucon Gazebo, not under that name, had briefly appeared in Managlitch, in Cat Sun Park, that was the very, very obscure reference to Katsucon.
Nice. But you see this kind of stuff all throughout the podcast that I've noticed.
Yeah, I like doing that because I'm kind of a smartass and I just like throwing in this, that, and the other. And the funny thing is, some of that stuff turns into actual plot stuff.
Right.
I made a reference to Managlitch's favorite space opera going on its 77th year, which is Captain Shadow. And there's actually already talk with me and some of my voice actors about doing a Captain Shadow project.
Wow, because I Captain Shadow can get the impression of like two different shows kind of slapped together. I mean, obviously it feels a little Doctor Who-y, and kind of also made me think of Captain Harlock, not Captain Harlock.
That is very much, if you were going to take two shows that really exist, it is Captain Harlock crossed with Doctor Who. I actually know a great deal about the backstory and the characters of the show, which is amusing because it was just a reference I wanted to make for a couple episodes. But creativity,
it's the writer's curse.
Yeah.
Really?
And so we've, in the future, when a bunch of us have, infinite time and a lot more money, there's a couple things we'd like to do. What we'd actually love to do is do something for the web with video, and do it in the style of a 40s or 50s TV serial. With cheap costumes, cheesy sets, overacting, just all the things we love about, say, Rocky Jones, Space Ranger, or Captain Video, or what was the other one? The Rocket Man videos, Radar Men from the Moon, that sort of thing. If you saw Voyager when they did the black and white holodeck episodes, they were doing the same thing.
Is my Star Trek, Janeway is my captain, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So Captain Proton was a loving tribute to the Rocket Man serials, to the point where the costume is exactly the same. They took it to a convention where the original actor was signing autographs, very old man, of course, now, and he broke down because the costume was perfect.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, but those serials are so much fun for me. I mean, because there's just so much. There's a lot of joy and a lot of this may be broken. We don't care. We're going to just do it. One of the influences on the show along those lines has been the web animation series Ruby, because it's done by a small studio. They don't have the resources to make it polished. They don't have the resources to make it super professional. They barely know what they're doing. They're inventing half of what they do as they go.
Right.
And I love that. That makes it better for me, because I know that feeling of, we're going to tell a story, and it's not going to be Hollywood. It's not going to have billions of dollars of budget. We're just going to get a bunch of our friends together and we're going to do this. And there's something about that energy that just really, it was a major influence in me finally getting off my butt and doing Managlitch.
Right. Like, if these people are doing this, I can do this.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be perfect. I can just do it and learn while I'm going and make mistakes and screw up, because that's the only way anything artistic ever happens.
Yeah.
You screw it up and learn what not to do.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about these old serials, and what's interesting is essentially this is what you're doing is with these old serials, and it goes back to that classic phrase, what is old becomes new again, because in the last, say, 5 years, I think podcasts have really exploded, especially the narrative ones like yours, and they're old-fashioned radio shows essentially. But now that people have iPhones and can stream stuff, and we spend time in the car for long periods, it's kind of like what's something else I can listen to besides this book or this music. And all these podcasts came out, and they just exploded in popularity. Because I like yours. There's tons of examples of these narrative ones that are just really popular. Like Night Vale, I think, is one of them. My friend listens to, and I think it's gotten really popular.
I'll tell you how Night Vale was a strong influence on me. And I want to say that, first of all, that I love Night Vale. All the props to it. I haven't listened in ages because literally too busy to listen. But I love it. And the one thing about Night Vale, the world of Night Vale does not make any sense. And they're not trying to. That's not what they're going. But
Right.
I'm going, you couldn't live in Night Vale. There's no way to imagine just you and me managing a day-to-day existence in Night Vale. The city is too weird. It's like a dream. It has dream logic, but it doesn't have any real sense to it. And again, that is fine. That's what they're shooting for, and I don't complain about that. But I was like, what would it be like to actually have to live there in a world that made just enough sense?
Basically turn the 11 that is Night Vale down to like 8.
Right. And have continuing characters, which, I mean, Night Vale certainly does, but there's very little continuing story. It's not really serialized. It's vignettes.
I haven't listened to myself yet. I just know my friend listened to it, but I've heard about Night Vale like everywhere. Like I think Geek and Sundry has promoted Night Vale before.
It's wonderful, and I'm thrilled they're so successful. There was nothing like it before. There are many things like it now, and they've managed not to jump the shark. They've made some narrative choices I disagreed with, I will have to say, but that's cool. They get their story, not mine.
Yeah. Well, I think we see that about almost anything that we watch. You go in one direction and they go in the other, and you're like, I'm not sure I feel about this.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I've been a rabid Doctor Who fan. We mentioned Doctor Who. I've been a rabid Doctor Who fan for decades. And, I watch the show religiously now, but that doesn't mean that every single episode I'm like, oh, that was the most perfect thing ever. I'm like, I would not have made that script, that plot choice.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's one of the things that's very important to me in fandom these days. It's okay to disagree with a casting choice or a plot choice or anything like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that the work is awful.
No, absolutely. I mean, sometimes we have to kind of endure, and there's definitely some plot lines I think the fans can definitely be like about, but there's, I think in recent times, I think it's more about representation. There is times when the fans have gone upset about stuff, and I think kind of justifiably so. But usually that's more about diversity and representation than disagreeing with story.
It also, there's also an entitlement problem with fandom.
This is true, yeah.
We're just talking about the modern fan world where there is so much communication between fans and sometimes even with creators. And that gets some of them feeling like it's their job to decide a casting point, a plot point, or something like that. And it's not.
I agree. I said there is a line. And yes, I think generally speaking, the fandoms in general can be very extreme and very upsetting about the stuff, and definitely attack the creators of these shows that they love. And it's like, whoa, you're gonna make them not make anything, make any more, let alone anything else, if you keep this up.
I get a reaction. The new Battlestar Galactica, the reboot that came out a little bit, it did not work for me. I did not enjoy it. I stopped watching it. I'm still very aware that it was good. I mean, the writing was good. At least I will fight you over the ending of the last season, but overall the writing was good, the acting was good, the production values were good. It just didn't speak to me, and
No,
I wish more fan people could take that attitude. There's nothing
yeah.
wrong with it. It's not speaking to me.
No, yeah, totally. But I think it might be something maybe comes with age sometimes also, because I'm like I definitely like the older Battlestar Galactica, despite its cheesiness at times, and even it has its flaws, especially with the when they try to tie some stuff up. Versus the new one, and I actually like Caprica a lot better than the new Battlestar. Not Battlestar.
I want to jump in. The old Battlestar, I've talked to some people involved with it, and they sat down and they figured out to do each show right was going to take at least twice the time and twice the budget they had. And they still tried. They were really proud of the work. They were really proud of the show. And they said, even if we can't do this 100% properly, we are going to do it as best we can with what we've got. And like I said earlier, that is a huge philosophy of mine. And I think that's one of the reasons I really like the old show.
Yeah. And but they're not the only show. Even in modern times, there are shows that have to deal with that kind of stuff. And I think that's something, again, maybe the entitlement of fans that fans don't get is sometimes choices have to be made outside of story. Sometimes it's production. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes the hands of the creators are so tied. It's like there's nothing I can do about this. I've read a lot about Fantastic Four, the newer one that's risen flop. Apparently, the director had a lot of his stuff tied by the production side of things, and they're like, "This is a bad idea." And they're like, "You're gonna do this anyway," and they're like, "All right,"
That's why I think that's a big reason why the Hobbit movies did not hold up to the Lord of the Rings movies, because Jackson actually had a lot less influence on how those were going to get made and what the story was going to be than one might think. He replaced Guillermo del Toro not halfway, but early on. And a lot of the things that del Toro, a lot of the choices he'd made, Jackson had to suck it up and live with.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes things just, TV and movie production is insane. It's no more insane. It's no less insane in the big time than it is in the indie world. It's just different problems. And a lot of the fans who get really upset about choices, I sometimes wish they could work on one of these productions for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
They really might learn some things.
Yeah, 100%. Like even you were talking about, like you had to make a choice. You wanted to have an episode out this month, so you chose to make something quick and small just to keep that going.
Yeah, because I wanted the energy. I know that I do have fans, which I'm so grateful for, and I feel like, okay, it is my job to do my best.
Man.
There you go. It's my job to do the best I can for them, and sometimes the best I can will not be what I wanted. I'm still pretty happy actually with what I released. I would not at all say it's subpar, and I managed to sneak in a couple of cute bits that I'm very pleased about that I will be interested to see if anybody notices.
Oh, you mean like the extra long static ending that I need to process with a pencil and paper later?
Maybe.
Yeah, I caught that.
I like number stations. I've been fascinated by them since I found out about them. I have some recordings of actual real ones, which are used by governments for espionage mostly. When I started the show, I was going to use part of them, and I found out that they're not, the recordings which are available are not public domain recordings, which is kind of weird because it's government espionage transmissions. It's not like the CIA is going to say, "Hey, that's ours, stop it." No. But I guess, the recordings themselves are not public, which, copyright is weird. So I said, but I want a number station in the opening of my show, and I found out how to do it myself with my own tools. And so, yeah, I decided to have a little fun with that this episode.
And you said you draw from pop culture and things you like, and you draw from your friends. It's not for your voice actors. You also do it with other various things because, to my dinner, there is a diner named after me.
Yes, that's right.
In the show,
the fried tree rabbit is amazing.
Yes, and So I'm also a game master, though. I tend to use published material because of time and ease, which causes me to railroad my characters sometimes on things. But I'm also very upfront and honest about that when I do stuff like that. So my players know what they're getting into and stuff. And I have lost a player over it before, but it happens.
You know, the way I do that when I need to put in certain elements to tell a story is there was a game of Hercules and Xena I once played, and my partner at the time was game mastering, and she really needed us to go west to visit a certain town, and we refused, and she did everything she could narratively to convince us to go west, but for reasons of our own which made sense to us, we decided to go east, so she moved the town.
Yeah.
You know, we still got to go east because we were bound and determined to go east, but we ended up in the town that she needed us to be in. And the adventure was great and everything. And I think that if you're going to railroad, that's the way you do it. You pay attention to the player choices. You don't take the player choices away. You don't say you're going west and that's final. You know, I will drop artificial roadblocks. Oh, look, every road is on fire out of town except the west road. You don't do that because that pisses off your players. But you move the destination to where they were going anyway.
Yeah, no, and that is a common tactic. But I'm saying is just, I think, or at least for me, this helps that I'm like, this is what we're running. We all know this is a module. Well, this isn't John Templeton's World 5.6. Welcome to Sunnyvale, California. He's Rise of the Rune Lords.
And it definitely has given me an advantage in writing Managlitch because I know what my destination is, at least in part. I'm reserving myself wiggle room, but that gives me the freedom to explore various side paths. Things, as I said, things that I thought were throwaway have turned interesting. Things that I thought were going to be interesting have turned out to be not, and kind of gotten quietly put aside for later use.
I say I'll use stuff later. Yeah, but I do kind of write things in my heads and stuff, and I post things on Twitter, and I have my little creation stuff going on. And I guess because of that, because you made Templeton's Diner, I sat down. I'm like, so what does Templeton do at this diner and stuff? And feel free to use or not use what's about to come out of my mouth. I had this interesting things come in my head. Two different things. One, that Templeton is actually a glitcher, but he's one that's passable because what his glitch is he's like a multi-man. But again, reflection on myself, his multi-men aren't exact copies of them. They are other genders and look like they could be his sibling, but don't look exactly like him, and instead they could be boy, girl, something in the middle. And perhaps everyone in the diner is a Templeton, one of his things, and then they're visitors out the city, and they do various things. And so he might be an information network person, or maybe he does randomly puts $20 in full of glitcher pockets when they are having bad days, or.
No, that's very interesting because it actually brings up something I wrestle with on Managlitch. And by the way, it makes sense that he'd be a glitcher because his place is apparently south of the Scar, which is not exactly the bad side of the tracks. I mean, because again, it's Managlitch, there's not a lot of serious crime or anything, but it's definitely the oh dear, that was a shame side of town.
Yeah.
But no, you bring up something. Is one thing I always wrestle with is I'm very as a person, I'm very science based. I'm very rational based. I have trouble sometimes dealing with stories like Revolution, which came out back a while ago, the TV series, where the electricity suddenly didn't work. And I was like, I wanted to grab the script writers and say, you are aware that human bodies work on electricity, right? And that human brains work on electricity, right? And so if your world is internally consistent, this is going to be a very boring show. Because everybody will be dead.
They eventually addressed the situation and why it was working.
Yes, and that was stupid. But anyway, my opinion, of course.
Yeah.
But my point is that I wrestle with how badly I'm going to abuse the laws of physics every time I write a glitch in Managlitch. I don't have a firm answer to that yet. I haven't. Obviously, I feel like I can't do anything which would make life impossible in the city. Because again, one of the big points of the show is that somehow everyone manages.
Yeah. Inconvenient, yes. Deliberate.
Sometimes life-threatening, yes, but just to individuals. I would not have the atmospheric glitch into nitric acid, for example. Yeah. Although I did talk about once that the atmosphere went away for a bit once, and luckily the city was prepared for that. It was a throwaway bit that I may do something more with later.
Yeah. Of course, you can also have it be localized too. We want the whole city caught on fire for no reason whatsoever because the air was on fire. It'd be one other thing if it's one building.
Right. It's such a big city. Yeah, there was the disaster where the gravity went wrong in one building, and some people got hurt and everything before they managed to sort that out. But again, it was just the one building.
Yeah.
It was not a cataclysm. And of course, as you leave Managlitch City, life starts getting a lot more normal. Very, very little of this affects the whole planet. Nibiron is a weird edge case.
Well, there's more to that, as you've been hinting at. So
yes, there's definitely more to that.
Yeah. But jumping back to my little idea, though, so maybe they're networked like Sense 8 or whatever. So if you use it, you can decide. But I think this is an interesting idea I had. But on top of that, what if one of the duplicates went crashing? Would it hunt down the other ones? And then
that's interesting.
This usually very quiet, very subtle glitcher, like other glitchers may not even know he's a glitcher because he stays, him and his multis stay in the background but help out subtly because they know they watch out for things and stuff, and they just subtly put things out and help here and there. They're now forced to come out or talk to Glenn or whatever, saying, I have a problem. Again, use it if you want or will. It's just something that popped in my head because I like your show, and that's where my head goes.
No, it's very cool, and if it fits in a organic fashion at some point, then you never know. It's certainly possible. As far as being part of Glenn's information network, that's entirely voluntary. It's mainly a case of, do you have anything good? I'll pay you for. And certainly somebody running a restaurant would have opportunities. Restaurants are interesting businesses, I guess, in Managlitch, because, Matara Black, who runs a restaurant uptown specializing in cuisine from other of the 41 worlds, she has an interesting hobby.
Like traveling and stuff.
No, Matara Black is Artemis Sable.
Ah.
Now it's been referenced in a couple episodes.
Got it.
She's got a device which is basically a pay no attention to me thing, and so that's the main reason nobody knows that Artemis Black and or Artemis Sable and Matara Black are the same person. It's like a magical version of Clark Kent's glasses.
Right.
And her magical girl transformation is just her turning off the pay no attention to me thing.
Yeah.
And so
I actually get it because of Changeling, the Lost, the World of Darkness role-playing game. There's different courts or whatever, and the Winter Court actually has that as a level 1 thing.
Right.
No one's looking for you. They actually don't notice you.
Right, and there was a Larry Niven story with it, and of course Douglas Adams' famous Somebody Else's Problem field.
Okay.
But yeah, I was joking with the voice actress that she's basically Sailor Moon all the time. It's just nobody notices until she turns off her doohickey.
Of course, now you can be Sailor Moon and Pathfinder. Ultimate Intrigue.
With the Vigilantes, I was terribly amused by that.
Yeah, I was looking at. I actually have the book. Finally came in the mail, and I was looking through it. And
that was awesome.
It's a very interesting class, but I don't think it's a class that would work in the average role-playing game.
I think it would have to be themed along that lines. It's a bit silly, which is, that doesn't stop me at all. I slipped the Power Rangers into my Shadowrun campaign years ago with physical adepts. So, Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking so much about the magical girl. I'm just talking about this vigilante in general.
Oh, well, yeah, it's an urban fantasy class, even if your urban is 1300 on another world. It's definitely not a go to the dungeon and kill monsters and loot the place class.
Yeah, I mean, like the class is exactly built like that. It's if you move locations, you actually lose stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you take very specific build points or whatever you want to call it when you're making it. Like there's ways to expand your presence and your reputation and have it travel with you, but like you have to build your character for that. And it's definitely not the basic level choice for the class. So I wouldn't mind playing a game where everyone is a vigilante. That'd be interesting. Just a different build and or archetype.
Yeah. It would basically be Fantasy Justice League or something like that. That could be totally fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because the really two cool mechanics about it when I was reading is, one, the two sides of you have alignment difference if you so choose, but it has to be one step away. Mind you. So.
Otherwise, that would just get enormously complicated.
And two, they are very distinct to the point that magic can't actually identify you.
Yeah, which is good, because otherwise it'd be a really short campaign. You know, It's like, dang, I wish I knew who the Batman was. Oh, wait a minute. Crystal ball. Okay, oh, wow, Bruce Wayne. All right.
Yeah, the class actually stops that from happening unless somehow someone actually like sees you change identities or whatever. They actually can't magically scry you as the other when you're the other one. And it won't magically pop up like, I'm trying to find Bruce Wayne. Why is there Batman in my crystal ball? That won't happen either.
Right.
Unless that person knows specifically that you are Batman. FYI.
That's another challenge, actually, in a little bit in Managlitch, but in other games I've played. When you have magic, because Managlitch is techno-magical to the point that the average person is not always sure which is which. They have their consumer products, they have their buildings and everything like that, but they don't know for sure if that building is held up by crystal steel or levitation spells or both. Because it's so integrated. You study both at the same time if you're a Managlitch architect.
Right.
And so in any world with magic, it's one of the first things you have to do is start putting limits on it. Because in a world where literally anything can happen, it's really hard to tell stories.
Right. Which actually recently I want to get to and talk about. And this is actually from what I was talking. So Managlitch had glitchers before the explosion of the gate or the scar.
Before the first portal blast scar, yes, and definitely before the second, absolutely.
But there were a small population, and then it sounds like the blast happened, and the population.
The visible glitch population of Managlitch is not that big. That's all I will say.
What I'm saying is, there's a size. What I'm asking is there a sizable difference from before the incident and after the incident?
No. After the first portal blast, the rumors of crashers started, and after the second portal blast, of course, the rumors were confirmed. Stuff actually, by people who had the ability to report on them. But
right.
Now, there have been glitchers in Managlitch for centuries. Yeah, that's another thing. When it first happened, it was people were a lot more freaked out because it does take time for people to adjust. But it's been generations. I'm not going to say exactly how long. Managlitch history goes back at least 700 years as a city.
Right.
And so it's probably safe to say there have been glitchers in the city for 200 or 300 years minimum.
Right. And I would also have the impression that before the city was established, the river caused glitches of the environment.
The area where the city was established, actually, no.
So it was
for the first, say, 100, 200 years maybe of Managlitch, it was pretty normal for a techno-magical world. The technology, both the magic and technology, were more primitive when Managlitch was established. Some of the oldest architecture there is very, castles, stacked stones, and there haven't been too many natural disasters there, or glitches which would wipe out large sections of the city. So a lot of that is still standing. Yeah, no, the glitching was new to the planet and new to the city.
It's a side effect of the manufacturing, it sounds like then.
Side effect of what?
The side effect of collecting the mana resource.
A lot of people suspect that, because how could you not? But no, not even the most skilled cybercasters have been able to prove a link. And to be honest, they wouldn't be really very interested in it because the mining of mana pitch is the power base for all three groups: the Royals, the City Council, and certainly the Cybercasters.
And brings me to my next question. So, like I said, this is observation from reading your podcast. It sounds like the average person doesn't use magic, and then the other two people that use magic are either a cybercaster, which has a device, or glitchers, whose glitch allows them to use magic.
So everybody encounters magic every day, and they may have a magic item or two on them that they use just as you or I would use an iPhone.
Right, but that's them using technology.
Exactly, it is just magically based technology, right? I mean, the thing about magic is once it has rules and you can explain it and you can play with it, it's science then.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, and so that's one of the reasons why the disciplines are so intermingled in Managlitch, because why wouldn't they be? The ability to cast spells is very limited. You either have to be trained, and the trained people are the cybercasters. They usually use devices to aid them. McAllen, for example, he doesn't need to, but they amplify what he can do so much that why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
So or like I said, sometimes glitchers gain that ability, and that was Glenn's glitch, certainly, as he gained the ability to cast certain spells, which he could not control when he initially glitched, which did not improve matters any.
Okay, so that was part of his glitch, because I was just getting an impression from listening as a not viewer, listener, that whatever glitch you had on top of that gave you access to magic, possibly.
It's only certain individuals. And you'll notice he doesn't use his magic much, and that's why.
Yeah, it sounds like he uses it when he's threatened.
Right, because he associates it with a very bad time in his life.
Right.
But yes, for example, Slippery Adam, who can just understand data streams. He has the ability to see them or hear them or whatever you want to call it. It's an extra sense. It doesn't directly map. But he can't cast anything. Yeah, I believe when they go on the glitcher hunt, he's using a knife or a pistol.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting. And so basically people can have a natural talent, but they can still learn it due to other devices.
Yes, they can, though the training is regulated and the cybercasters don't accept everybody. I'll be honest, I haven't entirely decided whether I haven't exactly decided how they make those choices. I think
you're still
you have
developing
a natural aptitude for it, but I haven't gotten the details yet.
All right, cool. I mean, so this is me as listeners wondering things, speaking to the god of this thing.
And of course, as I said, I reserve the right to change any of this, even stuff I've already established, because I can totally do that. But I didn't want everybody on the street to be casting spells constantly.
Right.
Unless, of course, again, you can probably, I think I said you can buy, as the same way you'd buy a gun these days, you can buy a device that will do fire spells.
Right.
Because it kind of maps out to the same thing. You probably have to have a license. The Ministry of Order probably keeps track of you. If you would like them not to, there are probably ways to arrange that you shouldn't be doing. But again, it's just a magic gun at that point that doesn't fire bullets. It fires like lightning bolts.
Right. I mean, I guess the other thing popped in my head, I guess, is magic so ingrained that even the letter is probably magical? Someone's using for their cigarette? Or is that just oil?
Right. So that's an excellent example. A Managlitch lighter, probably, it's a butane lighter, but it's magic so the wind won't blow it out. It's that combination. You can use it in the rain, and the rain's not going to put it out because it's got a little bit of a spell on it, at least a nice one.
Right.
And again, it's very comparable to the technology we buy these days. Capability is related to how much you're willing to spend, or maybe somebody who's good with tools. I've mentioned Nicklin Weber, who is very, very good with magical items.
That's one person, though, right?
Yes. Why?
Oh, because when you first mentioned it, it sounds like some kind of tech firm.
Oh, no,
It sounds like there's an N in the middle of the name.
oh, his name is Nicolin.
And right,
Nicolin.
it's that when we first hear about Nickel and Weber,
Oh,
it's
it sounds like Nicolin and
Nickel
Wilbur. Oh, I can see that. I can
Weber.
see that. That hadn't occurred to me.
And then when it's finally we hear, it's like, and Weber did this. I'm like, wait a second, is it
No,
one person or is these two people?
I apologize for the confusion. No, Nicolin Weber is one person. Like I said, if you read his character description on the site, it's rumored he was kicked out of the Cybercasters, but nobody rumors that to his face.
Right.
Yeah, but he's very very good with technomagic, and that has been useful to Glenn in several occasions. In episode 19, I mentioned that Avrela Singer was working with him on studying the pyramid.
It's like my cat is getting my attention. She's
They
very
do that. But yeah, so it's just really integrated because, I think it would be. I think that once magic is available, people are going to exploit it like they do anything else.
right. No, it's the next natural resource, and so we're almost going on to an hour. So I guess I'll ask my last question. Or could you explain a little bit more about the whole keeping auras clear or auras in general? And maybe I would feel it might tie into your art choice for your covers.
Oh, well, certainly. So in Managlitch, every place, every person, it all has an aura, down to your Scryphone. Everything has an aura. People, speaking of phones, mine just went off. Okay, so people can, some people are skilled in reading them, either naturally or you can get a device, which is an aura reader, and read the auras of places and things. And it's generally the traditional magical aura of it says certain things about who you are or the qualities of a place, a little bit about its history, maybe not in an obvious fashion, but subtle fashion. And there is some indication, though the studies are unclear, that if a place that places and people accumulate aura pollution just from existing in Managlitch. And people can cleanse themselves with personal rituals, with cleansing products they can buy, with services. They can do that for their homes and businesses. And the reason you want to do that is when your aura is polluted, it certainly affects your mood, your life, things around you. This is a magical universe. But it also, there seems to be some correlation with glitching. That a place or a person with a particularly polluted aura is more likely to glitch.
That was my impression.
So yes, no, that's definitely it's something that is received wisdom in Managlitch. Most people tell you that's the case, whether there's proof of it or not. And so people who do provide services and materials for aura cleansing do a good business. Frederick Therms is very well off.
I'm sure he's just the top of a larger industry.
Well, no, he's a private individual. Think of it almost like tech support. There's lots of tech support companies out there.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. He sounds like a very well known, but there's other people that do his job.
Oh, yes. In a city of about 12 million sentients, he can't cover the whole city. No.
Is this a little Doctor Who-ish? I mean, TARDIS, like you say it's big, but like we pull the map up, do we actually see all of it?
Yes. Nema has space travel, so and they certainly have air travel. So yeah, you can take a satellite picture of Nema and of Managlitch rather, and it is it's definitely a sprawl bigger than the New York metropolitan sprawl because population densities are similar, if not a little thinner, because you don't quite have the crowding. But the thing is, it's definitely the city on Nema where things are happening. There's other countries, there's other cities, but it's like New York or London or Tokyo. It is a cultural and economic center. It's got these incredible mana pitch resources, which everybody wants to a part of if they can.
Very large expert business.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. So it's attracted a lot of people over the centuries.
Which I guess brings into I know I'm trying to wrap this up myself. So it's catfolk. Earlier podcasts, it sounds like they might have been just a one-off glitch type thing, but now it sounds like they're their own people outside of humans from the Halloween inspired episode.
So no, it's a race of sentients. They are native to the planet. They don't like humans, and so they usually spend time apart from them. But in Managlitch, there's basically the equivalent of Chinatown.
Right, I got that impression.
And they generally keep to themselves. They do business when it's advantageous to us. If you're a particularly diplomatic person, you might have a catfolk friend. You probably won't. Glenn has several list network connections, and of course, Mistress Messier knows plenty of them.
Right. Well, just because you have them in your network doesn't mean you're friends.
Exactly. In fact, I believe there's one episode where the pre-Witch Night episode where he warns people. We're seeing more of the catfolk, and that's great, but they're not kittens. They're not lap cats. Watch yourself around them.
So, I guess, and one last thing. So, but do they deal with glitches as well, or do they have some, being a cat, have some kind of avoidance to it?
I will tell you that Glenn does not know of any glitched catfolk.
Right. That's right. Because I remember we made jokes about Twitter and cats before.
Yeah.
Glitch.
That may be that.
Because I was. Cats teleport is, I think, was my question, and you're like, don't all cats teleport even in your
that. So it is not uncommon to find a catfolk somewhere where you did not expect them. So yeah, whether that is actually magical teleport or whether they just move pretty quick and they're very good at maybe they have the natural don't pay attention to me ability. Nobody is sure. They don't talk about it, but yeah, sure. You can find catfolk where you were not expecting them.
All right, cool. Said it's 8:05 now. I'm sure you have other things to do in your night. Thank you for joining me. It was great talking to you again. It was extra special talking about Managlitch. And maybe we can do this some other time after season 2, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. I have some very interesting things in mind for season 2. Some things are going to happen which I don't think most people are going to expect. And I appreciate you inviting me. It's been fun.
Yeah, I said I really enjoyed it. Thank you for joining me. And again, like your podcast, if anyone sees this, please go check it out. When I find time, I'll add links in the Googlio in the bottom to check out the various things we've talked about. Actually, I keep on meaning to say this earlier. Before we close out, someone did a really cool motion type of your thing. You shared it first. I just want to point this guy out. It is so awesome. He did a really great job.
Yeah, it was amazing. I guess he's got a business or something. He's got a studio, and he did it as an exercise. And he said, "I hope you don't mind." And I was like, "Holy crud! Not only do I not mind, this is wonderful."
Yeah, it's free advertising for you.
Well, I've been a creative type literally for, at this point, 40 years. This is the first time I can remember that somebody has done what amounts to fan art of something they created, and that was a big moment for me. That was pretty awesome, I have to say.
Yeah, I know, awesome. Because I hope to see more. I hope more people like the show. I hope it grows. Your fan base grows. I like to see what fans can produce with your show. And you've already interacted with your fans almost in in one of the conventions you had an interactive thing, and I look forward to see where Managlitch goes, and I hope Templeton Diner survives a giant monster attack.
Hey, a good restaurant is not going to stay down for long, right?
Absolutely. There might be a mobile truck.
Right, a food truck. There you go.
And again, we've talked about before, feel free to tap me sometime if you need somebody.
Oh, I appreciate that. I got to say, I wish I could just get like 10, 20 people. I know so many folks that are so talented and just go full audio drama on this sometime. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, because there's ways of recording now and stuff, and I can send you something or whatever. But like I said, sometime for the future. Thank you for joining me. And I said, I'll try to repost this. It's going to automatically go to YouTube soon as I hit stop broadcast. But I'm going to try to add the stuff we've talked about to the stuff on the bottom. Links to your podcast on the website and where to find it on iTunes. And And this other stuff we mentioned, like the motion type.
Yes,
Now.
and I will post this interview on the website as well, so people will be able to find it there.
Yeah, cool. Please do. Have a good night, Michael, and it was awesome.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful.
Right. Okay. Good night.